In an ever-evolving digital landscape, for your business to thrive, you must adapt or die. Welcome to Marketing in the Age of AI, the podcast helping you harness the power of AI and marketing tools to revitalize and grow your business. And now here's your host, marketing expert and author of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI, Emmanuel Rose.
Welcome to this episode. We are going to dive into lots of great topics today with the boots on the ground examples. One of the topics we're going to cover are agents in merchandising, agentic merchandising. We're going to talk about jobs and job opportunities for the chicken littles that think all the jobs are going to be gone. I think we have an antidote for that. And then we'll talk a little bit about generative engine optimization or answer engine optimization and what some of the fundamentals are inside those activities. And today I'm welcoming to the podcast for the second time Vinod Kumar, who is the co-founder of Cynthium AI. He has a wealth of experience in AI and its applications in marketing. Vinod has become a prominent figure in leveraging AI to drive business growth. His expertise offers invaluable insights into how businesses can harness AI technologies to enhance their marketing strategies and deliver superior customer experiences and help e-commerce brands move some products. Vinod, welcome to the show again.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you for having me once more on this podcast. Happy to be here.
It's my pleasure. I love the work that you're doing, and I like that how dynamic of a space that you're in, and that you're staying on top of it.
Yeah, I think we talked about it this last time. 2025 is going to be known as a very interesting year in more ways than one. AI being one of those influencing factors here, but so much changing. We're already in the middle of summer, and the world has already changed just in the last 6 months.
Well, you think about just from the drop of the MCP servers in November, right, and then how that's opened up such a world for technologists in just 7-8 months, right?
Right. It's generally been 8 months since MCP, and we're seeing so many new innovations. In the last 8 months, it used to be that being a GPT wrapper application was a bad thing, but we've seen in the last 8 months that some of these companies who just wrap their product around GPT are actually on their way to becoming unicorns by their own rights, being $1 billion by valuation.
Yeah.
And it essentially has gone on to prove that more than data, the understanding of business workflow and domain expertise is at a higher premium now than ever before.
Well, we know this from marketing. The more stratification and the more clarity you have around who your ideal client is and their specific pain points, then the better you can serve that market. So I think it kind of mirrors that psychological need in humans.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. Fundamentals never go out of fashion. So having a good understanding of your ICP is still important. Having a good understanding of who your customers are and the fundamental problem you're trying to solve for them is still important. But all the fads keep changing every few months.
Yeah,
those fundamentals don't go away.
Well, I think one of the fads that's going to be with us for a while is the concept of agentification and ultimately some kind of a conscious AI helper. So what are you seeing in your space of merchandising? And maybe you just tell us a little bit first about what you guys are doing at Cynthium AI, and then kind of lead into what you're doing with agentification.
Sure, absolutely. So for those who may not have caught up with the previous episode that we did, Cynthium AI is an agentic merchandising engine. we primarily work with large brands and retailers. When I say large, I mean um, many of our customers are public companies. Many of them do north of $100 million in online GMV, just their online business. So they're all well-known brands, household brand names. So those are the type of clients we work with. We are a Salesforce ISV partner. So we work with primarily with enterprise customers of Salesforce Commerce Cloud. That's our
Gotcha.
primary market space right now. And because we work in e-commerce, we work very closely with the merchandising and marketing functions of commerce. So that world has changed so much in the last 8 months or so. This is keeping pace with it. It's becoming more and more challenging. This is the big difference we've seen. Last year, most of the leaders in these e-commerce space, people who manage these businesses, people who have P&L responsibilities for these businesses, thought agentic was a fad. Thought that AI is a flash in the pan. It's just a temporary trend. Maybe we'll test it out. Maybe we'll dip our toe in the water, but it's not going to be something substantial.
That's
But
interesting.
yeah, we'll just dip our toe in the water just to stay aware of what's happening. And you can't blame them for that. The year before, they had to navigate the NFT craze,
Right.
ended up to be a big bust.
Yeah.
Right? You can't really blame them for that. But they were like very skeptical about AI, very skeptical about agentic specifically. But this year, now that they've had like a few months of understanding how the market's going, and credit to companies like OpenAI, like Anthropic, like Google, making advancements and leaps and bounds in the space, like the previous episode on custom GPT, for example, that you hosted was super useful, so valuable with so many practical applications. So these e-com leaders have been listening to that, have been observing, have been on the receiving end of that, right? So that's one vector that has changed their perception. The other vector that's changed the perception is the larger market. This is not like a one pocket or one small niche that's being influenced by these messaging. The larger market, the consumers are also being influenced by this. So what that means is, because most of these are public companies, their investors are asking what their AI strategy is. These are many of them public companies, so these are all recorded in your quarterly earnings meetings.
Yeah.
And investors ask, what's your AI strategy? Why are you not talking about it in your earnings report? So that's another vector of pressure. So now, both coming together today, more often than not, most of these e-com leaders already have figured out what their AI strategy needs to be, or at least have a scaffolding of what it could be.
Sure.
Best-in-class organizations are starting to hire chief AI officers.
Yep.
Many of them are starting to hire like operational executives, people who can operationalize AI within their organizations. So that has changed. So what that means is the fundamental use case that's being deployed in consumer goods companies, CPG, retailers, and so on, which is our wheelhouse. Agentic as a way to squeeze more efficiency from their operations seems to be a use case that's front and center for these executives. They understand, they realize that agentic technologies can really help them improve their contribution margin, can really help them improve their internal efficiency, their cost to dollar revenue ratio. So from that perspective, agentic is getting more attention, and in some cases, more investments.
Yeah. And so what's an example of an agentic use case that you're using right now, and how that's different than just a standard automation or even just a standard AI deployment?
That's a great question. For the uninitiated may say that every function call is agentic, but that's not true.
Right.
A true definition of agentic is, does the application have a sense of agency to it?
Right.
And by agency, what I mean is, does the technology deal with ambiguity and requirements in a graceful manner?
Right.
right? So if a merchandiser does not know the answer to a specific question, does the software just wait for the merchant to provide an answer, or
Right.
can it make a decision that's reasonably good enough in place of the merchandiser so that the work can move forward while the merchandiser tries to figure out what it needs to be? So that core at the kernel of it, agentic um, technologies have the sense of agency, the sense of ability to make decisions under ambiguity. Let's take an example that everybody's aware of, this whole image generation. Enter a prompt, image comes up, right? Image gets generated however vague your prompt is,
Yep.
right? It may not necessarily align with your expectations, but if you give the system an ambiguous prompt, it has the agency to make decisions and still take a best guess approach around maybe this is what they want, and it still sort of generates an image, right? So that is a good example of agentic. As far as examples within e-commerce concerned,
Yeah.
let's talk about marketing and merchandising. This is obviously a marketing podcast, right? So,
Absolutely.
so So I think marketers are probably at the forefront of adoption, to be frank. Merchandisers will come, but marketers are already there. I was talking to a friend at Adobe recently, and he was saying that Adobe Firefly as an agentic data management and image generation solution is very popular among retailers, among consumer goods companies, among brand manufacturers.
Sure.
There are already experiments around combining the output of internal designers with agentically generated images, where the
Mm.
products are superimposed on a previously designed image. So brands are coming up with these hybrid implementations of agentic imagery that's all over the website. It's not 100% generated; it's hybrid, but it
Right.
is so custom that you can't tell the difference. From a merchandising perspective, agentic is interesting. Uh, Merchandisers' jobs are very manual today without agentic. There are lots of opportunities to automate some of the manual, time-consuming, laborious work that merchandisers do. Agentic has the opportunity to make merchandisers' lives better. Merchandisers' job function itself is changing because of all the other changes happening in the industry. So agentic is essentially the way I see it. It is improving the quality of work for e-commerce merchandisers by automating some of the time-consuming, laborious, monotonous work that is involved in the act of merchandising.
Yeah. No, and I think that's the appropriate use, and that's why it's not going to be going away anytime soon because we're essentially building custom custom software for every job function that is laborious and time consuming or that we're not good at or don't have people for. So it's a chance to automate and create custom for all these different job functions.
Yeah, and automation is happening all in, from my perspective at least, automation is happening in all the right spots in the merchandising world. We're automating things that the merchandisers don't want to do, don't
Right.
like doing. It is
Exactly.
super boring and time consuming.
Yeah.
Moving data around in a spreadsheet, trying to figure out whether a particular product belongs in position number one on a page or position number five on a page.
Right.
I mean, these all can be attempted algorithmically. Let them decide things like, does the page look aesthetically pleasing?
Right.
That's a very creative question.
Yeah.
Humans should answer that, not machines.
Yeah.
But whether product A belongs in position one or position five, a machine can decide that hands down way better than human beings. So those are some of the use cases where agentic is coming into play and sort of taking some of that burden off of merchandisers.
I love it. I think that's a great example. Shifting gears a little bit, I noticed in your LinkedIn you've had some great stories about this concept of generative engine optimization or answer engine optimization, and I'm just curious how you at Cynthium AI how you approached it, and then what you're kind of doing now that you've got some foundation, and then what you're seeing kind of moving forward with it.
Yeah, yeah. So the way the way it all started was actually pretty funny. Because Cynthium is becoming sort of the system of record for merchandising, and merchandisers want to figure out how to not just merchandise their site, but also figure out how to merchandise ChatGPT conversations, where
Mhm.
some of their users are exploring their brand, exploring their product. We sort of got dragged into GEO. Uh, so as we were getting dragged into GEO, we realized that, oh wow, there's so many things that we can do here because we have all the fundamental underpinnings of AI that can be leveraged not just for on-site merchandising, but also off-site merchandising like ChatGPT. So we had that foundation. But before we built a solution for our customers, we thought we need to establish ourselves as experts in GEO in our space. So
Yep.
the first thing we had to do though was we had to do GEO for our own brand, Cynthium.ai.
Right.
Right? We are a agentic merchandising engine. So if someone search for agentic merchandising, we needed to be part of that conversation. So that's how we started the journey. I am so happy to report that if you go to Google, if you go to the AI mode, or if you go to Gemini and you look at the AI mode, if you search for the phrase agentic merchandising, today you'll see us in the citations. We figure in the answer overview that Gemini provides in the AI overview about agentic
Nice
merchandising.
work. I love that.
So we use the same technique that we would have suggested our product would have done for brands, for retailers, but we had to apply it on ourselves, make sure it works before we turn around and help brands and retailers get there. So now we are in a position where the product now does what we did to our own brand, and we're in a good place now. So as far as techniques are concerned, this is interesting. From a pure marketing perspective, the levers to pull for GEO are actually not that different from old school SEO. There's some incremental net new stuff that needs to happen, but some of the foundations like having quality content out there, making sure that we have sufficient third party conversations, affiliate conversations, where essentially these engines need to know that you're an expert in a subject matter and that you're not the only person talking about you being an expert in the subject matter. First of all, if they look for, I think these engines look for proof that you are talking about the subject matter enough with some credibility and that your ecosystem, the people around you, are acknowledging your expertise and are talking about you being the expert. So what that translates to is quality of long form content is now super important. Quality of multimedia content across video, short form, long form, imagery, all that stuff is not important. Well, old school SEO tactics like backlinks, like having proof of authority in other properties, classic SEO, those are important. Now, that's what we realized when we applied those techniques to our own property, Cynthium.ai, our brand. When we switched over to applying that to a brand or a retailer, we learned of a few net new things. For example, there's an emerging standard called LLMS.txt.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Right.
Similar to robots.txt,
Sure.
LLMS.txt is just another text file that incoming agent bots can read. There's a specific structure that you have to align with. It's a text file. You cannot have images on them, but it gives you the opportunity to bubble up all the main themes and all the main things like what your popular products, what are your brand values, what are the themes that you want to be known for. You can address all that in LLMS. Similarly, there's an agents.txt standard being discussed. Although not widely adopted, seems like it's another up and coming standard. From an e-commerce perspective, the ability for product pages to have JSON LD microdata schema markup in the PDP pages, so that when a bot reads, even though the PDP itself is designed better for human eyes, how do we design them for robots, quote unquote, eyes?
Yeah.
Is an important development. So that's a net new microdata is part of overall GEO, whether you're in e-commerce or not. But if you're in e-commerce, microdata and schema.org, syntax, all that becomes even more important than before. So those are some of the main sort of punchlines or the main bullet points that we hit to be able to be featured in GEO conversations.
That's good. And you've generated some leads from this GEO, haven't you?
Yes, we have. So what we did was we had to find a way to share this information with the industry at large. So what we did was essentially create a tool. This is live today, by the way. We created a tool that allowed a brand to assess if there's a perception gap between what ChatGPT is talking about them versus what they want to be mentioned or known for. So we call this tool AI Visibility Auditor, or in short, AVA or AVA.
Yeah.
So, so today brands go to ava.synthium.ai. There you go. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
They would punch in any URL of a brand or of a popular. Well, that's your own personal website. It'll do its thing, but it's always better to run an e-commerce brand, which doesn't matter.
I got e-commerce, Vinod. Web seller things all the time.
Yes, of course. We talked about it last time. Yes. Plus, you have you're selling product. So, and it'll tell you, it'll take a few minutes to run. Here's what it does.
Yep.
Actually, could you pause there? So what it's doing right now is it's looking at your homepage and it is extracting brand information.
Okay.
What is the site known for? What is the industry category, for example? And it'll extract all the data, and then dynamically it will create prompts that it thinks it needs to assess your brand for.
Love it.
So it'll create prompts. It'll go to ChatGPT. It'll run those prompts. It'll go to Gemini and run those same prompts. Once it gets the result, it'll take those results in standard JSON format, put it in a database, and run basic rudimentary natural language processing, NLP algorithms on it. Once that is run, it then extracts numerical translation of that very qualitative assessment that it just did. And it will tell you very clearly, you're highly visible on this engine, but you have accuracy issues, for example.
Sure.
And if it is accuracy issues, then it'll outline, I found this on your website, but ChatGPT did not talk about it. Or I found this on ChatGPT, I didn't find this on your website.
Interesting.
So it'll give you the disconnect and go, look, you got to fix some of these things. So at the bottom of the report, then as you scroll down, once it finishes,
yep,
it will give you a starter llms.txt that you can copy, paste, and drop it on your website, on your root folder, so that people have a starting point.
Love it.
People have a starting point for GEO. You don't have to like sit there and go, oh my God, there's so much to do. You don't have so much to do. You have a lot to do, but here are a couple of things you can do right now.
Right.
Just give this to your developer, drop it on your root folder, and you're off to the races. So depending on how complex the site is, it might take longer.
Yeah, that's okay. We'll stop sharing, but I think that's a cool tool, and it's a nice gift that you can give to the world and to your prospective clients.
Yeah, so people are looking at it and going, oh, this is interesting. And people are reaching out to us and saying, many brands are happy with just the report. They just look at the report, they understand the takeaway, they sit with the developers, they figure out next steps.
Yep.
Some of them go, oh, this is interesting. Can you help us implement it?
Right.
This is interesting. Your report identified competitors for us. Can you help us do a competitive analysis and help us implement something that allows us to compete inside a ChatGPT conversation?
Right. Nice.
So these types of conversations started happening and leads started coming in, and that's how we started generating some leads from that single GEO effort that happened on LinkedIn.
Well, I think that's awesome. I love the name. I love Ava. I love that you created a tool for those of us who are not enterprise level, and but maybe will be someday. So, um, are you still focused primarily on enterprise level, or do you work with mid market as well?
We do work with mid-market. The primary challenge is, the markets in general are a little sensitive to capital expenditure this year at this time of the year. Many brands are going navigating some tough financial waters. So what we have found is that mid-market brands are more sensitive to trying new things right now, which is unfortunate, really,
Yeah,
because it's perfect window for them to take opportunity. So mid-market, there are not that many brands who are equipped to take advantage of this amazing window they have to outcompete
yeah,
everybody else. So from the perspective of where there's more desire to ideate on these new emerging places, we are finding that large enterprises are much better positioned to do that. That's the only reason. We never say no to any incoming mid-market calls,
right.
but they are far and few in between in relation to the enterprise conversations we are having.
Well, it's good to know, and I'm glad that you're helping take those high level uh, operations that you learned from the big budgets, and you're helping bring those learnings down into the smaller companies, so that we can grow those companies too. Uh, Vinod, I really appreciate your time, and thank you so much for being on the show again. I love what you're doing. I love what you're talking about, and I hope that I can reach out to you again in a few months, and we'll see what's changed.
We're glad to be back on your show, Emmanuel. Thank you for inviting me again. And I'm really looking forward to reading your book that was recently published on GEO.
All right, I appreciate that, and I hope you have a great day and that you stay cool.
Thank you. You as well.
All right, thanks. Well, I hope you found some value today from the show. There's lots of good takeaways, both on agentic operations and also on GEO. Make sure you visit ava.synthium.ai and get your report. I have some work to do. I have a good visibility score, but my sentiment and my accuracy is weak. So I'm going to have to get to work on that, and then I could report back on the next episode about what steps I took for my own GEO and how that was adjusted. My real hope for you is that you take some time to find an AI tool, test it, implement it into your workflows, and that you save yourself the 5 to 10 hours that's possible per week by using AI, and that you use that found time to continue to upskill, to spend with your friends and family, and also to get outside in nature and get away from the screens. This is Emmanuel Rose, Marketing in the Age of AI.
Thanks for listening to Marketing in the Age of AI. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. Your copy of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI is available at Amazon.com or EmmanuelRose.com. You can also connect with Emmanuel on LinkedIn. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.